We got a couple more at the front, should you wish. Everyone's worried about the Q&A bit, aren't they? No one wants to sit near the front. Okay, so thank you all very much for coming and taking time out on a Thursday. I'm sure the beer helps. Two really interesting talks today. I'm not going to say a lot, but as you can see, we're on our 6th talk, and we're learning. We're getting better at this, and hopefully that's working because there's more of you here. That really helps to keep us going. If there's anyone out there that is thinking, I could do this bit, I can definitely get a talk in, ping me an email, drop me a note on Meetup, whichever way you like. Just get in touch. We're always looking for new speakers. We've started to line up the next event, which is going to be really interesting. It's going to be around Brick Lane. We'll tell you a bit more at the end. But yeah, hopefully you'll be interested in that as well. Not going to say a lot more about this. Just a very quick one from me. Can you all get that somewhere in a tweet? That would be lovely. We want to spread this more. We want to talk about it more. And then we can start doing other stuff around it. We're looking at maybe doing a more conference-type thing at some point, but who knows. So from there, I'm going to introduce you to Ian, James, guys from Elsevier. They're your first talk of the evening. We only have one mic that seems to work, so you guys, I don't know, can share? No? Okay, well, I'm going to give you this.
Thank you.
Smooth.
Oh,
so here we are. I'll leave it over to you guys.
Thank you. If I pin that there, can you hear me? Okay, is that coming through? Oh my God, Windows. Yeah. Okay, first fail. What does that do? Hey. Hello, everyone. My name's Ian. I have feedback. I work for Elsevier. I am an operations manager in one of the verticals which look after the infrastructure and operations within Elsevier. We are going to talk today about taming the chaos through automation. So I guess let's start off and try and explain what chaos is, or what our particular flavor of chaos is. So, oh, by the way, just to say, so I'm going to do all the fluffy stuff because I'm a manager and don't really understand any of this shit. And James is going to do all the technical stuff. So this is how it's going to work. So, yeah, so I suppose sort of like a typical development house setup is, if you're in AWS, we're pretty much all in AWS. We have been going through a 3-year transformation project to move from all of our data centers into AWS, and we're about 75% of the way through that. I can't actually tell you what our AWS spend is, but it's big at the moment, and going to get bigger. So if you've got a typical development house AWS setup, you might have something like this. You've got a number of different dev teams, and they are maybe that's going into their AWS account, and in their AWS account they might have a production VPC and a non-production VPC, and inside that they will have a number of different environments and eventually a production environment. And that's all kind of quite simple, you know. It's not particularly difficult. I do hate Windows.
Or just computers.
Oh, maybe it's just computers. Yeah, there you go. That's true. That is. Yeah. How do you scroll up in my notes? Good Lord. Macs are so much better. Could I just say Macs are... no. Otherwise, I get into the Puppet Ansible thing in a minute, so that probably won't be good. Yeah, so it's fairly straightforward. One product, one end goal. You know, you've got to, everything's got to work because it's got to go through an integration or something like that. So, you know, it's fairly easy to run configuration management or infrastructure as code tools. Our setup's a little bit different. We have a single dev team, which will have a non-prod account and a production account. And in the non-prod account, we'll have multiple VPCs, which the environments are split into. And then we'll have in the production account, we'll have a production VPC. Again, you can look at it, 2 accounts, you know. I mean, that still looks quite simple, really. You're thinking, well, where's the chaos in that? Except we don't have one dev team. We have quite a few more dev teams. We have, and they're all of them have, a dev team will have 2 accounts at least. They'll each have several VPCs in each account, and they will each, all of them, working differently or whatever, and off they'll go. But the thing is, we don't actually have just a few more, we have a lot more. A huge amount. So we've got all these accounts, all these VPCs and everything. And so our estate, we've got about 40 independent development teams, and by independent, I mean almost fanatically independent. You know, if they find that someone's doing something, they will find another way to do it. I mean, if they find that the person next to them in their own team is doing something in one way, they will find another way to do it. It's just the nature of the way they like to work. Each development team has got 2 to 3 AWS accounts. Each account has got between 1 and 6 VPCs in it. That gives us a grand total. My team is currently looking after about 90 AWS accounts and 300 VPCs. That's the chaos, if you like. It's a lot of... so, you know, the headache for us, it's not this one product going one way and there's an end goal which is the same for everybody. It's very much that we have all these different accounts, people wanting to do things in so many different ways and everything, and, you know, how do we manage this? You know, how do we build all of these that deliver the development requirements? I use that word with air quotes. Use the development requirements, give them that, but it's manageable. It's all done in the same way. There's not all these different special snowflakes and so on. And another thing, you know, how many operations people do we have to manage all this? Any guesses? Yeah, it's just James. He is actually just James. It is incredible. I'm going to give him a pay rise, I promise. Yeah, so how do we manage it? So, I mean, all the development teams, they all believe that they've got different requirements. They haven't really. They're all, I mean, 95% of them are running Java. They're just Java apps. They're, you know, got a presentation layer, they've got a Java middleware layer, and they've got some database backend, whatever it might be. And obviously, you know, why have one database if you can have 6 and all this sort of thing? So we've worked really hard to deliver our stacks in using exactly the same building blocks. So what we've done is we've built our infrastructure deployment is done through Terraform, and we have done it in a way that it is building blocks. So the idea being that you can take all the different building blocks and fit them together, and, you know, like Lego, you know, from Lego you can create whatever you want, a Batman or I don't know, whatever. And this is what we try to do. We use dry principles. We don't, all of our modules, you know, a developer comes along, they've got a Solar module, they want to use Solar, or we have a Solar module that does that. We make sure that the module itself is absolutely static, and it is just changed by variables. And James will go into a lot more detail about Terraform and how we do that, like I say, in all the technical stuff. So, I say everything is our code is very solid, and we try and make everything exactly the same, even though when you put them all together, you end up with lots and lots of different things. Our accounts, all these accounts, we use Cloud Health as our for our cost management. We've only just started using it. It's kind of okay. I did spend 2 days last week trying to figure out reserved instances with it, and I thought, you know, I'm going to be about 10% out. I ended up, I was to a factor of 10 out of where I needed to be, and so jury's still out on Cloud Health, but yeah. We have dedicated accounts team. They manage the accounts, they build them for us. They set them all up and everything. We have a very good relationship with AWS. We have optimization managers who look at things like RIs and how we can better, make use of what we've got and do it in a more cost-effective way. And we use things like enterprise accounts that consolidate VPC flow logs and security logs so that we don't have to go to every single account to look at things. Oh, I do love Windows, sorry. There we go. And our VPCs, modular Terraform, like I say. James will go into more detail in this. We use VPC bootstrap modules where they reference everything. They pull in linked other modules as building blocks. And there is a really distinct separation of data and logic. For those of you who've used Puppet, think Puppet and Hiera, how that separates data from the logic of the modules. And that's exactly the same. Oh, God, I hate Windows. That's exactly the same as what we use in our Terraform. So number of people, like I say, and our working strategy. So we're constantly working on lowering the barrier of entry. So one of the things that we can't do as an operations team, there's no way that we can service these 1,000-odd, I think it's about 1,500 developers with all their different requirements and so on. So we've written all of our stuff to lower the barrier of entry so that anyone can pick it up, in effect. We need everyone to be able to use this, and there's no point writing all this stuff if people don't use it. The best and easiest solution, we want this to be the best and easiest solution for their infrastructure challenges, and so we work with them to lower the barrier of entry. We want the development teams to own their own infrastructure. We very much, although we are the owners of the infrastructure, we very much, we're responsible for it in terms of cost and in terms of how it's set up and getting the best operational maturity and best practices through. We need them to own it. But if you let a developer loose in AWS, then, Elsevier would be bankrupt within a month, let alone, we'd have something which just, I just opened up all the ports because I wasn't sure which one I needed, and you know how it is. So you can't do that through. Please make sure you use security groups. Please make sure you do this. No, you have to do it through your technology, and that's what we've worked very hard to manage. We also have some ops engineers that sit inside dev teams. So I have quite a lot of my ops people. They don't sit with us. They sit within the dev teams. They are very much part of the dev teams, but like a UX designer or whatever whose responsibility is to champion UX stories in the backlog and through the sprint planning and so on, their job is to champion operational maturity and to help people use the platform. And we provide a consultation service. So, we can say, look, here are our tools. If you're going to use them, come and speak to us. Weekly meetings, code reviews, and it's a feedback loop. If our tools do not do what people need them to do, then people are not going to use them. And that's what we really have. We work very hard on making sure that I know I've thrown a few jokes about developers out there, but we do work very hard to collaborate with the developers that we've got. Oh, God. And so we've got an ops team of about 20 people for all this, which, where were we? We were at the New Relic conference, and they had one ops person per 30 developers. Yeah, which would, who were like, and they were really proud of that, and we were like, yeah, we'd love that. That'd be really nice. This is you, James. Yeah. This is you. So I'm going to hand over to James now. Like I say, he'll give you the more meat on the bone, but this strategy of building blocks and the ability to allow anyone to use our technology in a collaborative manner means that we're an ops team that has a huge estate, but a very small ops team to do it. So I shall hand you over to James. Don't talk into it, because it's really picks up quite well.
Where does that go?
I don't know.
If I do that, no. Can people hear me?
Yep.
Sweet. It's not that hard. So if you're looking for kind of a big in-depth code thing, I'm not really going to go into that. If I had one account, it would be super easy for me to automate the crap out of it and show you how I can spin up VPCs and EC2 instances, auto-scale, deploy. So I'm going to go through some of the principles of why we chose it and some of our patterns. So why Terraform and what did we do to get on it? Everything we do a proof of concept phase. So they last about 2 to 5 days, depending on size. With this one, we did CloudFormation, Asgard, Terraform, and Troposphere, if anyone knows Troposphere. We didn't look at Ansible, because I like to keep a separation between the infrastructure and configuration management. Using something like Ansible to do Amazon deploys, it just muddies the water. It gets confusing where the line is. In my opinion, which Ian agrees with me on. Terraform's cloud agnostic, really helpful for us. We're Amazon first, but we do have some cases to have DR backup, special snowflakes where we need to have other servers in other places. Using it, we can write the same language, same principles, and use Azure or something like that. Stored in version control, it's pretty hard to do automation without that, so we pretty much dismissed Asgard as soon as possible. For us, it was a no-brainer, but we still looked at the idea because we have a lot of accounts that have stuff in it already. Asgard, at the time, did provide at least a way to manage that without having to kind of retrofit in. Low barrier to entry. So, as Ian said, we're not that many people. We want other people to do the work. And so, having something that was easy to kind of develop, to kind of onboard people with was kind of key to us. If you have some Amazon experience, it's pretty easy to get a grip of Terraform. Documentation is great. Oh, crap. But with that in mind, like, Terraform might not be the best thing for everyone. But when we're working at scale, we have to kind of realize kind of what the requirements are before choosing. It's, you know, in our circumstance, we need something that scales really high, but if you have 1 or 2 VPCs, another tool might be right, but it's understanding the requirements before kind of going ahead with it. So what was the design approach? At first, there probably wasn't that much, but as we started going forward, we had to think about it quite heavily. So, as Ian mentioned, we've got a really highly modular setup. So we have things called core modules. They're developed by the core team, which is myself and a few people. They're approved. It means that what you're getting is, you know it's going to work. We've designed it properly. We try and design them to work for as many people as possible. It doesn't help us if it works for one team, not the other. So we have lots of required variables, lots of, you know, optional variables. We try and make them work for everyone. All modules will always build everything it needs to run. So Solar, for example, it will build every resource it needs to run itself. The only exception to that is subnets, NACLs, which we have in another module. We have those to stop developers doing stupid things like opening up ports. We have rules to stop kind of silly traffic. And with that kind of approach, if someone decides to bin their Drupal or whatever, we run Drupal, it's disgusting, it means that all the resources get destroyed along with that instance, so there's no cost associated left, there's no security risk associated left. We use semantic versioning and maturity ratings on all our modules. We're an ops team, but we use open source kind of principles in the way we develop our modules. We have full readmes, full change logs, and having that means that someone that's using it, they're not going to fall across anything that tricks them, and we try and, again, lower the barrier to entry to mean that people can adopt our stuff. with that, the fringe modules are an issue. So fringe modules, they might not be the best. They might not have our approval, or they might have been developed by someone that was just developing it, put it into our repository store, and they have something. It has been a problem. People have kind of deployed modules which aren't very good. So to combat that, we use maturity ratings, which go from high to low. They show whether a module is developed by the core team and is constantly in development, to low or without a tag, which is deprecated or we haven't tested it properly. So we try and make the choice easy for people to come in and use our modules. As Ian said, we use dry principles. It's pretty hard with the collaborative languages. It's very hard. And we'll always abandon dry if it means that we can have a nice separation. If it makes sense to us, then repeating code isn't too bad. And one of the biggest things, so Ian touched on the fact that we use kind of a puppet hero strategy. So every product has a control repository. So this is where they are only allowed to reference module imports and set up variables. So they're not allowed to do anything else in that. So it means that when we go into a repository, in a control repository, we know that there's no like kind of weird resource assignments in there. No one's kind of adding a security group that we don't know about. And with the module imports, everyone must reference a Git tag. So everyone sticks to a Git tag like you would in your Puppet file. You're not going to get surprises when you deploy. It's going to be solid. And with this, actually, with the approach, having the same kind of way to do Puppet as we do with Terraform and having it pinned and clear, it makes it easier for us to kind of chop between projects. We're not going to jump onto Science Direct. We're not going to jump onto a different type of project, and we're not going to be scared about what we're going to see. It's going to be the same pattern as we've had over here, the same pattern as there. It just makes it easier to spread out 20 people across all of these developers. So I'm going to go, it's just a core module example. So one of the ones that we developed, it's Jenkins. I'm guessing most people use Jenkins or something similar. So Jenkins is one of the most kind of widely used CI in Elsevier. But with any CI, there's a lot of wide variety of requirements that people want to put into it. So you'll have a development team, or you have a product that has front-end, back-end, client teams. They all have different languages, they all have different requirements, they all need different setups. So how do we cope with kind of designing something for that? And so what we actually did was we came up with two different modules. There is some repetition of code, but the advantages we get from that like heavily outweigh having one module that doesn't quite fit with everyone. And with that, we can have a lot of different deployment possibilities. So, for example, my Jenkins setup, I use Docker for all my builds, so I have a master only. So there's one module which is master and one which is slave builder. Deploys all the infrastructure for each thing. So for me, I just use the master. I build with Docker on the master. For bigger like platform Java teams, they're pretty heavy builds, so you can use the master module and then import the slave module once. For client teams that want to build on 32-bit, 64-bit, Windows, Mac, then what they can do is they import the master module once and they import the slave module a number of times. You're getting exactly the same infrastructure across all the slaves, but then using variables like your AMI ID and stuff like that, you can actually have different auto-scaling groups, so you can build across it really quickly and easily. So what does our platform library look like? This isn't a definitive list. There's a lot more than this. We have around 40 to 50 core modules. It's hard to count. We have a lot of different ones. So we have example deployment methods. So an application deployment is usually written specific for that application. There's too many variables to take in to write a specific rolling deploy or a BlueGene for every product we have. So we provide base modules for them to use. We also have monitoring modules, so we can monitor core Amazon metrics, so 500 instances in service. Really good way to wake me up at 3 o'clock in the morning. Really appreciate it. But it's the way what we're trying to do is we're trying to create everything so easy that we can automate a whole product's deployment with all the monitoring and everything in one place. And Terraform deploys the infrastructure, but how do we tie everything together? We use Puppet, so how do we tie into that, and how do we, tie into our AMI bakery? So somewhere on here, there's an AMI, there's Puppet server, and there's a user data module. So we have these modules that really kind of set up the flow. So the AMI module hits our AMI endpoint. It will pick up all the AMIs that are available for use. And then the user data template module, when you're launching your stack and you need a Puppet input, you reference that, and it means that the instances come up with the correct information and they bootstrap immediately through Puppet. It's just a repeatable, quick way to do it. And so what does it result in? Well, we can deploy environments really quickly. We can deploy environments in exactly the same configuration, and they will always have the best practice in, whether it be security or Amazon. And trying to lower the barrier, it means that there's a lot less work for ops in general to look after things. Developers feel empowered, so actually empowered, but they can implement their own infrastructure and own it in a lot better way, and we don't have to worry as much about what's monitored, is done properly. It's hard to show kind of what the results are. I could show you a huge Terraform file, or I could show you a big Jenkins output. It's not going to be very interesting. So just a couple of numbers. So this is a product that got deployed with our infrastructure a couple of weeks ago. So this is deploying 2 environments, and so we've got 23,000 lines of code. That's with the Terraform get, so that means that that's all the module output. If we actually do a max depth on that, it's only 2,500 lines of code, and half of that is setup, so setting up the variable kind of pointers and stuff like that. So it makes it a lot easier, a lot quicker, and a lot safer to deploy our environments in the same way every time. And that's it. Does anyone have any questions?
Have you done this across multiple cloud platforms? We have 3 currently, or 4?
Not,
5, sorry, yeah.
Not yet, but I believe there's some plans to do that, and so it's within our kind of grasp that we're going to be doing stuff like that. And so we're pretty prepared for doing it. There'll have to be changes for code, but as I was saying, like being able to use the same tool across multiple cloud providers means that the principles will stay the same, the code will stay pretty much the same, it'll just be different names.
Sorry, excuse me, why you choose with Terraform, for example, not CloudFormations?
Provider agnostic.
Can you repeat your question?
Yeah, one sec. I'll get the microphone.
Oh, thank you.
So, what's the
Why
question?
Terraform and not CloudFormation? I mean, you can't do what we're doing with.
All right.
Just talking up. Catchbox.
Right.
No, way up. Yeah. It's called catchbox. You can throw it and you can talk here.
Right.
Oh, well, that's
Who is next?
I think he'll give the question.
so the question was, why didn't we just use CloudFormation? So it doesn't work across multiple cloud providers. That was the main reason. Personal reason, JSON is not something to write configuration in. It's something to receive information in, for me personally.
And for me, it's not manageable. If we had got to where we were, where we are now in CloudFormation, I mean, we have some customers who are doing this in CloudFormation. They haven't come over to us, or they started before we did have this available. And 3,000, 4,000 CloudFormation templates to do one thing, it's just unmanageable.
Yeah, we much prefer.
There's a duplication of copy and paste errors and duplication of code. It's very good.
You mentioned that you use containers in for like testing and development for, I assume, to be able to bring down the modules and test them together with Compose or something. Does the service support it for developers, or is it just for dev?
Should never have said that. So testing our modules is something we really need to work on automating. At the moment, it's quite a manual process. So obviously we can run validations and stuff like that, but we need to put more wrapping around it. My Docker stuff is more for AMI building and stuff like that. We need to work on a good way to do our testing. It's too manual at the moment.
Just throw it. You can throw it.
Don't mind anyone.
I've seen that design which I like using Terraform with Jenkins. But my question is, how are you guys saving or even committing the TF stat files?
Say again?
I'll assume that you're not using Atlas. I'm not sure if you're using Atlas or not.
Oh, for the state files?
Yeah.
No, we use S3 at the moment.
Using S3?
Yeah.
So
we are talking with Terraform about Terraform Enterprise.
But how do you kind of like encrypting them before?
We're working on encryption at the moment. So at the moment, you'll have the state file in a private S3 bucket.
Yeah.
And the way the Jenkins job works is that there's a function that calls and brings out the state and makes sure it's there.
Somehow, if I got access over this TF stat file, I can see them like
if you got access to a state file,
yeah.
fine. Yeah.
All right. Thanks.
At the moment, we'd need to encrypt it. It's an actual challenge around Terraform variables as well. So how do you inject secret variables in Terraform? It's a big challenge which we're looking to solve with Vault or something. But it's once you've got the whole Terraform structure in place, like we spent a long time doing this. And when you get to a point where you're stable, then you can focus on that, and that's kind of what we're moving to now.
Because I've seen a tool called TerraHelp, which people using it to encrypt these files before committing, even using on GitHub. And so that it's kind of like the way you can access this TF stat file to decrypt with TerraHelp, which is quite.
Yeah. So I think we're looking at. Am I allowed to say?
No.
Okay. No. KMS.
Go on.
Am I? Okay. So we're looking at an encryption method that stores it in S3. TerraGrunt is actually quite a good tool. TerraGrunt, really good because if you're using Jenkins jobs, you're okay. But if you're doing kind of manual deploys, the locking mechanism is really hard. So you either have to create your own. TerraGrunt uses a DynamoDB for locking. It's actually really good to solve that problem.
Do you use Terraform to provision your users for each account, and do you let them have their own keys?
Sorry, I didn't hear that.
Are we using Terraform to provision users? So some products do. I created a way to do it. It is still pending which method gets chosen. The problem with Terraform is so we're a big organization. We have central authentication. So the ideal method is to tie into that. If we have the only way to do that with really Terraform through pure Terraform is to have a central authentication AWS account. And that doesn't really fit because there's still manual steps to remove someone from that account. So
the end goal for that will be AHODevOps integration, but where that will go, I don't know.
So question, with regards to the teams that you said 1,500 developers, something like that, various teams, when they need an environment, do you guys set it up initially and then give it to them and hand over? What is the process by which they go about actually getting this up and running?
So yes, we can, but we're a central team, so it's all about the engagement model for us. So basically, if they pay for us, we're happy to do it. Yeah, we don't care. We'll prostitute ourselves to anybody. It's
everybody loves corporate horse.
Yep, that's the one. So they might pay for if it's a new product that's starting, they might pay for a project resource for a little while or whatever, in which case we'll do it. But the way we get around it, so that they will still utilize our code so that it has all the best practices and all the right, the agreed patterns that are meant to come through, is we have a consultation arm. We have a consultation arm that, and we provide whatever sort of periodicity people want, but weekly is the most, so whoever is implementing this stuff can come and sit for a week, come and sit with us once a week. We do code reviews with them. It gives us that feedback loop where they can talk about if they've got any requirements that they're missing and so on. And when we set up the team, we were very much, well, I was quite keen on that we would be the implementers as well because it's the easiest way, by a long way. Yeah, but the decision was not, and I think now I'm quite comfortable with that, and I'm quite happy. I think it's the best way. But it does mean there's more work for us to make it closer to that shrink wrap product, so it's easier and less, it's.
Yeah, with.
Follow-up, sorry.
That's fine.
So I was just going to say, the follow-up to that then would be, what do you think of things like Bitnami or other AMI building tools? I know they're going to be releasing all their tools for building images that are pre-packaged, that are all the modules are indexed, so you can get security updates. You know where it is. You know which services are running it. If you're building AMIs,
so we have a very robust and fully featured AMI bakery. That what it has a starts off with there's a few different OSs. People obviously give developers a choice of 6 OSs and they want to choose number 7. But they so we have a number of OSs which we then harden. We then have them linked up to the various different security advisories, and as soon as there's security, then the bakery automatically spits out a new AMI, and that's our base AMIs for all the different OSs, and then we then do product AMIs on top of that. So, and it's just a chain on that, and then we then have an API endpoint that people can query. Those are shared out through the various accounts, and people can query those to see what the latest or whichever ones, the different things they want and so on. So we kind of do that. So some people, their deployment object is the AMI. So every time they build, they poke the bakery to create a new one. Sometimes some of them it isn't. They do it through Puppet or whatever wonderful, ingenious methods they come up with. Does that answer your question?
Well, I have the box at the moment, but his follow-up question was my second question, so I no longer have a question. I just demand everyone feel sympathy for me.
You're left with it now. You've got to ask one.
Yeah. Possible.
So, what was the reasoning for keeping individual accounts per team rather than going to a consolidated model?
Because this is
wonderful. Go on.
We're facing the same kind of place where I'm working at the moment, and they've gone for a consolidated, and it's in the transition phase at the moment. I was just wondering what your reasoning was.
It would be just too big, quite simply, and there are too many. Like I say, I can't actually discuss too much in numbers, but we would just hit so many AWS limits, Amazon limits. It would just be unthinkable. One thing, but that isn't why we did it. We have accounts which have very, very small spends of a few $100s a month, in them. So that's not why all of them are like that. There was a pattern from our infrastructure architecture people that we should have one account for production, one account for non-production. Each non-production, each environment would have its own VPC, and there will be no VPC peering.
So to add with that, the separation is based on the product to an extent because there's no peering. So if you're a product and you're not exposing an external API or something like that, then no one can link in with you, no one can use you unless so no one can kind of tie into your data streams and stuff like that. So it makes sense to an extent. Some of our products are huge. It would be nice to consolidate slightly, but we wouldn't be able to consolidate all the way. We would still have at least 70 accounts probably.
Cool, thanks.
Excellent. I just wanted to know, with regards to Terraform, you don't like CloudFormation. So with Terraform, how long has it taken you to create all of your modules?
We've been, to be honest, we've been working on this for about a year, just over.
Just over, whatever. Yeah.
And so that includes...
And that is not full-time, and that is not very many people.
And so that includes, setting up all the kind of underlying infrastructure. Getting to use Terraform quickly. If you know Amazon, getting onto Terraform is pretty quick. Within a couple of days, I was pretty comfortable. That being said, like if you're doing it at a big scale, it's nice to have someone that really understands it properly, failing methods and stuff like that. But to actually just get a handle on deployment is super quick. The documentation's great. And if you understand Amazon, it makes sense. The hardest bit in Terraform is understanding, well, I need this resource. What other resources do I need to make that work? Other than that, it's pretty just simple reading, for me anyway.
The default Terraform setup is it's all in one directory or one set of subdirectories, and you can just go for it, and your state files there. It's very simple. Doing it this way is a little bit more tricky, but if you've got one account or one stack or whatever to do it, then yeah, you don't need to go down this route.
And do you give permission to the dev teams to do their deployments via Terraform scripts or?
Through Jenkins, yeah.
Through Jenkins.
Sorry?
Through Jenkins.
Through Jenkins.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Jenkins triggers Terraform jobs.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Because like Ian says, I don't want to be sat there doing everyone's deployments every day. So.
Excellent.
Any other question? No? I can't throw it anywhere. No. Is it for? Yeah, we have one.
So you slightly answered it there, but I was going to ask so how are your developers interacting with Terraform? So you said it's through Jenkins. So with the variables, you have your Jenkins build jobs. You can set them in there, or
it's parameterized builds. So depending on what they're doing, we have various parameters in the build. If it's an AMI deployment, it's super easy. It's just one thing, and we hit a target module, and they deploy that target module. We have another job to control the rest of the infrastructure. We want to get to that position where we don't have to give developers access to prod. We're getting there, but having Jenkins jobs, they have to deploy their stuff, and they know when's best. So that's the way we do it.
Cool.
It's a long throw.
Don't throw it that far.
Thanks. So just a quick question regarding Jenkins and Terraform. How did you store your secrets? Are you using the Jenkins store, or are you using Vault, or any other solution?
Secrets as in terms of getting credentials to run Terraform, or secrets that are injected into Terraform?
Secrets used by Terraform, let's say, for example, the API key and stuff like this? Database
password and stuff like that.
Sorry, what?
So like a database password.
Yes.
Really not the best. It's on our roadmap at the moment. It's something that myself and an American colleague are working on. So we're looking at Vault to solve that. But as I say, we've not been working this year. We're now stable in terms of our module and our deployment. That's going to be the next thing. We had to start with, the engagement was crap. So developers wouldn't want to know about us, they wouldn't want to use their stuff. So we've been working quite heavily on engagement, getting people to use their stuff first. Now we've got people coming to us wanting to use their stuff. Now we can go off and make it better. That was the big task, I think. I'm a real techie, but I understand like a lot more of that kind of work of late that Ian's been doing, like driving into development teams to use their stuff. And that's, if no one uses their stuff, if our barriers to entry is too high or it's not good, I don't have a job. I can't. Oh, I've written this beautiful thing, but no development teams are using it, and so we've been focusing on that, and now we're going to be kind of really improving it.
Okay, thanks. And one more quick question: are you also managing the Jenkins? So is there a global Jenkins? Or do you have one Jenkins by dev team?
No. So dev teams launch their own Jenkins. It's the same engagement model. If they want our help, we will help them. We've got the example kind of rolling deploy. We've got example modules, example public code to help them out. It's up to them whether they feel they can do it themselves or whether they can ask us for help.
And how do they deploy the Jenkins module since the build is made by Jenkins?
It's chicken and egg. So there will be an initial run from someone's laptop. Okay. That builds all the networking, and then you can deploy your Jenkins. There's just no way around it.
Thanks.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you very much, guys. Hi. We all well fed? Good. We still have lots of beer left, so I'm glad you're all staying. So the second lot, as you probably saw from the page, we've got the guys from Puppet who have so lovingly shared their space, which is pretty incredible. Russ, John, and Alberta. So we're going to do a bit about state of DevOps. I'll tell you more about that, and then it's all about the Q&A. So please have your questions ready, make them super interesting, and again, thank you all for coming.
Okay, we all ready. You can carry on drinking, eating. It's fine. We're happy. Cool. So you enjoying so far? Everybody likes it?
Come on, louder.
Woo! Well done. Thank you.
That's how we roll.
I'm lucky I've got my friends on the back. Yes. So we're just doing like very, very short. It's not even a presentation. It's just walking through the state of DevOps. So we do run for the last 5 years, Russ, right? I'm correct? For the last 5 years, we've been running this survey, mainly across the globe. But as you can see,
Watch out right there.
better. I think Mark said to turn this off. Yeah. Is it better now? Yeah. Can you still hear me? Away from that speaker. Okay, so I need to be here. Okay, I'll stay here. I don't move. So I was saying, this is the results of the respondents of last year. I'm not going to throw all the statistics. I've seen your faces. You're like, no, I don't want to see statistics. No. So what? So this year we're going to obviously to do the survey again. I've posted the link on the meetup page. So it'd be really great if you guys can participate to the survey so we can ramp up the number. In EMEA is only 27% plus 1% in Africa. So we just want to get a bit higher. So line up with the states if it's possible. So this is the the stats of the participants of the last year report. So just to give you an overview, this report is aimed to understand what is the state of DevOps practices in every type of organization, what is the role of the respondents, how your organization is structured, what you do you achieve. Is actually the practice of DevOps going to give you like a better margin? You can, if you achieve or not your business requirements. So this is the breakdown of the participants. So you see that 35% of the respondents are in IT operations infrastructure. Who in the audience is from IT operation infrastructure? How many people? Wow, only 3, right. The second was development engineer. Any developers here, engineers? Yeah, oh, okay. Some people are not using their hands. Right? And then we've got 22% at DevOps. I've talked to lots of you. Lots of you are in the DevOps space, like DevOps engineers, am I correct? Okay, so you're divided it quite equally. So the rest is professional services. I don't think we have any C-level here, any CIO, no? So this is the division per services for, per industries. So the majority of respondents come from technology. Who from you is from a technology company? Half of you, great. Yeah, yes, sorry, I forgot. Financial services? 1, 2, that's it. Okay. Retail, only 1. Telecommunications? Wow, nothing. Okay, media, government. I think somebody works for the government. It's very few. So the majority is like the 35%. Great. Those are the results of the State of DevOps last year. So we used 4 metrics to understand what is the state of the DevOps in your organization. The metrics are for comparing high-performing against lower performers in the respondents. So the 4 metrics we use is frequent deployment. So how often do you actually deploy product services? The second is fast time to recover. So when a drift happens, any failure, how long does it take for you to go back up running? And the third one is the change failure rate. So when anything goes wrong when you make a change, how long does it take for you to go back to normal? And the fourth one is what's the lead time? So when you actually deploy something, what's the time that it takes between code commit to production? So you see that you can see from yourself, I don't need to actually tell you, that there is a huge difference between high-performing organizations are actually organizations who have achieved their business objectives compared to low performance. So in the survey, you have some questions that are asked, do you actually listen to your customers? How often you deploy stuff that your customers are asking for? How you implement their feedback into your production? So if you go here, you see the difference between high performance and low performance in terms of how often do you deploy your product or services. High performance, they say multiple times per day. How often do you deploy your services, guys? And I'll leave it to John and Russ. Half an hour, great.
You're top performing, thank you. I hope you're using Puppet too, by the way.
Anybody else? How often do you deploy product and services in your company?
Once a week.
Once a week. Okay, once a week you are medium performer then. Going through the stats, I'm not implying anything. Anybody else wants to share?
Every couple of years.
Oh my God, you're just out.
Public sector represents. Thank you.
What about the second one, lead time for changes? The time that takes from code commit to running in production. Do you see yourself in one of those results? It's like for a high performance, it takes less than 1 hour. What about you?
How big are these companies?
So if I go here back, this is per number of employees. So this is the size of the company. So 22% are the big corporate of respondents. That's I don't know how many of those are high performance.
Not many.
It's not in the batches.
It's under an hour to get something changed. That seems like
that's
a really big deal.
That's
Yeah,
okay.
you're
I see
right.
that you do statistics. I see that. I know that you do. So let's go back to where we were before. Anybody else wants to share their experience in terms of one of the 4 metrics? What do you do with, yes. Can we have the...
I would think we're all on the right-hand side.
You all on the right, low performers.
Yeah, all on the right. You get a deployment once every 6 months would be good. Get a change, lead time per change. 6 months is a very short time. And all the rest are just the other hand.
I mean, change failure rate as well.
So,
okay.
Can I ask you a question? Is it automation tool slowing you down, or is it process? Is it paperwork? Paperwork, yeah. Okay.
It's not the process. They don't even have a process.
Yeah.
They don't even,
Okay. You know, we have customers that last week we visited a customer that said, "Okay, this is great. We've got everything automated, and now we're outsourced to a company that takes 2 weeks for paperwork just to do the automation." Is that what you're dealing with?
No, we're dealing with it.
Sorry.
The company doesn't have a process.
They haven't completed the automation.
Yeah.
They're in the middle of a migration. They're changing their product. They're building a team. They're trying to get world peace at the same time.
Oh, wow.
So, all these things.
Ambitious, starting from scratch.
Oh, no,
Come talk to us. Yeah. Right.
Sorry?
6 months for world peace.
No, we thought about 3. All the rest are difficult.
Sorry, what's...
6 months for world peace sounds pretty good. Yeah. Take.
So they're doing too much too fast.
Okay.
Without any control.
Can I ask, what is your team size roughly?
We have about 40.
40. Okay. All right.
40 people in your team. So what's your team as IT operations or what?
What am I? I'm the change person. I'm supposed to build a team, do the DevOps, do the migration, make the company $1 million next year. $1 billion, not $1 million, sorry. We're already going over the hat.
Baby steps.
Easy task, right?
Easy things. I got 2 years for the...
Hopefully they don't pay you too much because you don't do anything really.
Exactly.
So
it's all entertaining.
Great. So when did you start this journey?
A year and 3 months ago.
Do you use consultancy for that?
No.
Or you doing yourself?
We have a consultancy in, but we're gradually phasing them out. We've now changed from Rackspace to AWS to Azure. We're going into Cloud Keepers, and now we've gone back to SunGuard hosting.
Okay. So can I ask what's the nature of your business?
Sorry, it's a travel company.
Travel company, okay. So that's important they actually stay up and running, otherwise people can't book anything.
Sort of reasonably important.
Yeah.
That's it, so.
Well.
So
all these little difficulties, and of course, we're now in the process of trying to get budgets passed and getting the extra 5 or 10 million we need, and all sorts of minor details like this.
Okay.
So yeah, go on.
A new tag for the next year's DevOps survey: indecisive. Underperforming, performing, and indecisive. Yeah, but is that what you would call it, right?
Yeah, maybe headless chicken's a better way.
Headless chicken. We'll put that in the big bar graph. Headless chickens. Okay. Well,
But
dare I say there's quite a few out there. Anybody would say they're a high performer right now? If you're talking about changes every week, you're talking about deployment every week, yeah, I would say yes. Anybody doing that in production?
Want to share your experience? Sorry, what's your name?
That's pretty
good.
Daniel.
Daniel. So Daniel has shared his experience. It's quite useful. Anybody else?
One extreme, we'll go to the other extreme.
Yeah, from lower to up, maybe?
Yeah, sorry, hands again.
Hands again. Who wants
throw
to
the box?
Who wants to share the experience?
I saw hands. Yeah, you're a high performer. Throw it back to Dell there. You got it.
All right.
So tell us your high performers. Okay, taking 6 months to roll out a change versus what you're doing.
So we do. Our app is actually something that builds infrastructure for us to deploy customer demos. So we have our own app ecosystem that deploys bare metal stuff and deploys workloads on the bare metal once they're up and running. And we tweak that thing constantly. It's continuously kicking out new releases. How many releases did you do in one day? It's 6?
I mean, we were fixing things.
Yeah, so maybe 6 or 8 releases a day.
Okay, 6 releases a day.
Yeah.
6 rolls out of it.
Yeah.
6 provisionings of a demo environment, or 6?
Well, no, actually, releasing a code on an internal repo, putting the gem up there.
No kidding.
It's a Ruby gem. So yeah, 6 releases a day.
Your QA department must be busy.
It's not. It's just continuous integration.
Okay. Yeah. Anybody else doing CI/CD yet? Oh, brilliant. You know what? That's the most people here and the most hands I've seen.
I think that's really key. You literally cannot move fast unless you write your own tests.
Exactly, yeah.
You're just shooting yourself in the foot otherwise. If you don't automate your release process, you're onto a loser.
Absolutely.
You've got to.
Okay, well, I'm glad to hear that. Anybody? Yeah, question. Go through the box.
So it seems like a lot of...
Good catch.
Thank you. Questions of verbiage, not to be pedantic, but I mean, first, there's a big difference between an hour and a week, obviously. Second thing, though, is what does it mean to actually get it from commit to production? If we're saying developers committed some block of code, it runs through my CI pipeline, it comes out, and I actually deploy it to production, does it mean that it's live, as in it's gone and it's now being regressed and moved from staging to whatever? There just seems to be a little bit of lack of clarity.
That's a good question, right?
Probably would solve this.
If you're implementing CI/CD with unit testing, right, a code change goes through, all your lights are green. It is up to your QA team to build those unit tests and say, right, if everything is green, it passes our bar. Right, QA is the next sector to be automated, the next level of the team to be all things are green, ready to go into production. Right, this is what companies like Google and Netflix do every day. Anybody using Chaos Monkey in production? Everybody knows what Chaos Monkey is, right? Yeah. This is a company that said we want to be ready for things to fail, and we're going to make it so ready to fail that we're going to make it fail on purpose, randomly. We're going to have a process run around and kill things. Anybody that's ready for that is ready for fully automated CI/CD, right? If it passes unit tests, it's on production, great. If something fails at that point, QA is at fault, right? Everything was green and it failed. There's something wrong in your QA. Go ahead.
I'm trying to put it into words eloquently. I think it really comes down to development practices, and unless you're at least trying to approach test-driven development, then trying to do continuous integration or continuous deployment, you're going to fail. If you've still got a QA department who are a separate department to your developers, it's just not going to work. I'm sorry. It's like that having a different department where you have to explain these concepts to people every time you add a feature or make a change. You've got to, your developers should be describing what they intend to accomplish by way of a test, and then go from there.
So there's agile and there's no board meetings. Just let me go with it, right? Yeah, there's a level of trust you got to put in your developers. Absolutely. Yeah, I agree. Okay, interesting. Well, question. There's one more question, and is that related?
Actually, that's just a note that the entire concept can be into 9 words. You build it, you run it, you own it.
Sure.
That's the whole thing.
Absolutely. Okay, I would say yes. And I have one point. Can I show the original hand? Go ahead, pass the mic. But in the meantime, can I see the original hands that were doing CI/CD right now? And I'm going to push the envelope on our current. Keep them up. Push the envelope on our what our customers are asking right now. Who's doing this with containers? Put your hands down if they're not using containers in any way. Okay, all of them are still up. Right. This is why people are going to containers. And not only does it help you. Okay, I'm sorry. You can put them down now. Keep them up for another half hour. Yeah. How many people have to stop every time they want a new VM, allocate an IP, allocate IP tables, rules, whatever firewall they require, and process yeah, everybody's got a hand up at this point, whether or not they actually have it up. To say I've got one public IP and I've got some containers underneath it orchestrated with IP tables, masquerade rules. This is why Google wins so much, right? They don't have to go and ask a manager for an IP every time they want to run an application. How many people would say that they deploy more than 100 new containers a day? Original hands again, sorry, back up. How many people would say that they kill or maybe replace 100 applications at a time, 100 containers at a time in a day? In a day. Oh, we've got stable containers. That's okay. One hand. Toss the mic. Toss the mic back. You've been a regular at our pugs. I want to ask you. So how? Give me a rundown. Give me a.
Okay, we're home office. We're rolling out for border control. We're using Kubernetes, and we have our own internal platform. So they manage the infrastructure. We just have to manage the application running onto that. So good old keep deploy services. We're pushing them out, scaling them up, scaling them down, and it's working for us.
Wow. The most efficient thing in Croydon is just...
We're not there yet. We're in Westminster.
Oh, okay. Sorry. All right.
We'll be in Croydon.
Well, I'm glad to hear that. And can I ask what your tool chain along the way is? How do you get to Kubernetes from code?
The central team would like us to use Drone, but we're still using Jenkins for our CI, and then normal namespaces and pushing it on from there.
Okay, Jenkins pretty much common across the board, I would say. Anybody not using Jenkins here? I start with not using Jenkins. Oh my gosh. Okay, hands up. Bamboo or some alternative. Bamboo? No? A few. Okay, right. Anybody using their own CI/CD tools? That's what I like to hear about. Anybody got something crazy that they're using that works really well? Oh, okay. Everybody's got a tool at some level, right? Very interesting. Sorry. So, 10 minutes. Do you want to? Okay. Yeah. Well. Oh, Russ, go ahead.
Sure. Who has any security concerns?
Yes. Nobody has security concerns.
People rarely care about security when moving faster.
We get hacked.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, the idea is that we all need to move. Anyone not want to move faster? Anyone want to do things more slowly? No one likes rapid development.
Fiona loves slow.
Yeah, Fiona likes slow. We need to do all these things faster, right? I mean, we keep hearing it from our customers all the time. That's why the reason they come and talk to us, not because their management is saying, we're going to give you loads of resources to continue doing things exactly as you are. It's because their demands from their customers is just going through the roof. They're not going to get a dozen more people or hundreds more people to actually help with this. So they need to move faster all the time. And then, it's quite easy to sacrifice security to move faster. one of the things that we see about the high performers is they actually spend less time remediating their security issues. So they're getting all of those high metrics, which may have some interesting verbiage that we can work on. But they're doing all of it with lower security risk as well.
Okay. Box. Can we pass the box forward, please? Oh, catch it. There you go.
So going back to what we were talking about CI and CD, for example, test-driven development, the like, and even the security model, there's a movement to kind of kill all that. Because there's just basically, you write a whole bunch of tests, then you have to maintain the tests. And while I agree it's great for uptime monitoring, any number of things, totally on board with that, it still requires a lot of effort, a lot of maintenance. And also as things change and whatever, it's kind of like writing documentation. How many developers do you know that actually write documentation?
That's automated, right? That's Puppet does that.
Well, of course.
Right?
I mean, you're always. So do you think that there's likely to be a tendency, do you find, for example, the security things, that people are willing to tolerate more failure in exchange for being able to move faster?
I say no, but there's another. Yeah.
I have an answer, and the answer is that by being faster, you actually end up being more secure. And who here knows that Larry Wall's 3 vices of a good programmer? Laziness, hubris, and third one was something else.
I've not had enough wine to answer that question.
But the idea is that you can't really sell security.
No.
You can sell convenience. So if you have something which is more convenient to use and more secure, it will be adopted because everyone likes to be lazy. That's the entire point. Spend upfront effort, make things more secure and better to use, and really hard to screw things up, and it'll just pick up. Nobody wants to shoot their own head. That's the point.
No. You're right, and there's 2 sides to it, right? There's development environment, we're pushing new features out, and we're patching our base our image, right? Whatever we're using a gold image to keep up with security standards, right? That's why we have companies that maintain OSs and companies that push out patches for SSL, right? If you're not writing your own implementation of a library, somebody's got to be maintaining it and keeping an eye out for those patches, right? So we have customers that have a 3-tier deployment, dev, QA, prod. Shell shock hit. What do I get? I need this in production now, right? All 3. And there's all ways to do that through Puppet. We have provisioning options for all of that, right? We have a full workflow. We have a way to push everything to get at the same time. You don't want to do that with your production features and say, oh, the intern just contributed the latest SQL. Let's try rolling that out and see what happens. Right? You got to have this vetted by a partner or by a OS vendor. Absolutely. Yeah.
By the way, my question.
Yeah.
Everybody is scaled by compliance at the moment. Because you said there are no really, everybody wants to be lazy, who cares about security unless it's easier. What about when audit comes in? What do you do?
What do you mean if? I have 3 audits scheduled for this spring.
What do you mean?
I am scheduled to be involved in 3 audits this spring by end of June.
Security or compliance or licensing or what?
2 security, 1 full audit for accounts. And that involves also touching infrastructure security. So I will be involved in each one of them. So compliance, plus security, plus accounting. Is that enough?
How do you plan to tackle that?
I'm still alive. I did it last year.
Wow, yeah. Wow.
Okay, how long did it take for you to run all the reports to make them happy?
Total. I would say on each occasion, with each particular audit, the one in Malta took 3.5 days total. The one done in our UK office was 7 days on the compliance audit total. And the one which dealt with accounts, I ended up spending on and off maybe 4 days total. And that's because everything goes through audit trail. Everything is available. Everything can be logged. I can show from Git logs, trivially, what happened in any given file, any directory, who did what, in what order, between any given dates. It's trivial. And one thing you really don't realize until you get auditors, they love screenshots.
Oh, screenshots.
Yeah.
They don't want a database query, they want a screenshot.
Screenshots
I can Photoshop you a screenshot, anything you want.
No, screenshot of a Git log plus the command you used to show that log to them, and they will be really happy.
Wow.
By the way, do you like doing that? Spending 7 days doing the reports? I don't know. Maybe you like it.
Coming soon, Puppet screenshot module.
Do you think I'm insane? Crazy, yes, but not insane.
That's what I want to hear. Thank you.
Well, that's interesting to hear. We have. We just have one more. A couple of more minutes. Do you have a question? So, here's the kicker. Any of you using containers out there, right? Containers are immutable. They can never be compromised, right? Yeah. Here's the kicker. How do you show an auditor when something went wrong in a container, right? If you have Puppet on top of your container maintaining your configuration, sure, it's immutable, but it can change. And if the Puppet agent is there to say, hey, I've got a local user, and my Puppet profile says, I shouldn't have local users. Something is wrong, right? And for that to show up in your Puppet DB and say, oh, Mr. Auditor, here's your credentials to Puppet DB, query anything you want. Here's what went wrong. Here's where Puppet remediated it. We even have customers that are talking about like a honeypot. If my container is out of compliance, kill it, or even better, sock it aside, take it out of my Kubernetes cluster and say, this is a honeypot now. Whoever is in this, I'm just going really quick, sorry. Whoever's in this can do whatever they want. We're going to track them down and audit everything they do, right? It's a beautiful way to keep track of your containers like you never would outside of the market. So anyway, I think we're short on time, but is that it?
We only got
Yeah. So thank you to /ECS for hosting and the pizza. And by the way, there's a lot of you here tonight. While you're here, if anybody's frustrated between contracts, we are hiring.
He's recruiting for Adrian.
Aggressively.
Just give Third Republic a call.
Yeah, they're probably hiring too, but we're better because look at the office, right? So, sorry, go ahead.
So can I add one more thing? So if you have more questions, feel free to reach for us. I'm in the meetup group. Yes. What? Sorry, Fiona, what did you say?
Just let them know about the pub.
Oh, the pub, the user group. What?
This lovely sign.
Oh.
This lovely sign.
Okay. So we have a Puppet user group. I don't know when. I can't remember. The next one. I don't know, Fiona. I don't know. I can't remember. There is a sign. Oh, thank you. Yes. No, there is no date. Sorry. So
But it'll be on a meetup.
we've been on a meetup. Yeah. So you're most welcome to come, and you can get. Perhaps if you have more questions, you can ask it. I was a user group, and the guys here can talk more in details about Puppet, which is more appropriate than talking here. My last thing. So I have posted on the meetup group this link. So if you can take the survey, you actually have a reward eventually. You can win one of those prizes. Some prizes are really good. I just don't go through it, but some prizes seem good, right? So I really appreciate if you could complete the survey so we can get a 27% up from Europe, from high performance and low performance, both. That would be great, especially because here we've got high performance anyway, so that'd be good. Well, thanks for coming. Hopefully I see you at the user group. Yeah, we have a question there.
Yeah, I have a question. What about the possibility to have the results of the surveys in open data?
Good question. So we have a white paper, but I can look into that. I don't know. I need to ask marketing. To be honest, I have no idea.
I was thinking to the question of the guys
Yeah.
in the head.
Okay, I see.
About the cross references between two kinds of information. So maybe many of us could have idea to cross the data and retrieve more useful information. That's why.
I'll look into that. I'll definitely keep you posted. Yeah, it's something that we can talk about next meetup. Definitely. Yeah, I'll look into that and let you know. Any other questions, guys? Before we have to go, right? Yeah.
The pub that everybody's going to afterwards?
It's called. The hoop might be downstairs.
Yeah.
I'll direct you to a pub. Come join us for a drink, guys. Thanks for coming. Without you guys, we're not doing this. The next one is going to be mid-March. We're in February. Yeah, mid-March. And it's going to be really interesting. We'll be announcing on Monday the first speaker and hopefully the venue, all being well. Bring someone along next time. We're going to have even more space. I'll see you all there.